says you're live. Just a second. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last interview of day 2 of the Grand Multiliteracy event. And during this session, we're going to tackle a question that was common amongst parents who have older children. And the question was, how can I motivate my preteen or teen to write more in the home language? We talked a lot about reading during this event. We are going to talk about writing as well now. And to answer this question, I'm very honored to have Amanda Hsiung Blodgett with us today. And so, Amanda, I'm just going to introduce you very quickly, but you're the founder of MissPandaChinese.com, the host of Playful Chinese podcast. You're also the Chinese language consultant of the Netflix show Word Party, and the author of First Mandarin Sounds, an awesome Chinese word book, and Little Bun, a bilingual storybook about feelings. These two books, you generously are giving away them as part of the giveaway. So thank you very much. And if some people interested, we have done an interview last year about these books and about multilingualism in general. So if you want, you can check this interview as well. I put the link in the description. And but today, so you're here because you're a teacher, but you're also a parent. You're a mom to two multilingual and multiliterate young adults. So I'm very much looking forward to talking about how we can motivate multilingual preteens and teens to read and write, especially in the home language. So thank you for being here and welcome, Amanda.
Oh, thank you so much, Yoshito, for having me. And hello, everybody. Thank you. This is what a wonderful program. It's such an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. So to give, oops, sorry, I'm going to double check. Yeah, that's fine. I have the comments. So if anyone has comments or questions, feel free to write them in the comments so I can read them to Amanda and we can answer your questions. So to give us a bit of context, can you please explain a bit how your children speak, read, and write in their home languages? So what are their levels? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is a very fun event, and then I think this is all about multilingual, raising multilingual children, children who can speak more than one language, or the family actually are doing that. And especially, I think I'm very happy to see the parents, educators come together and talk about different things in multilingualism, bilingualism in this event. As a matter of fact, that for me, I am the most important job I have is being a mother, being a parent. So my two kids are all now in college. So they're much older than most of the children, probably parents who are participating. But the thing is like the course of raising them in more than one language actually is always, I want to say, this is always the process. We always want to look at process. So you stay on the process so you can walk to different milestones or to your destination. And the destination is keep going because right now they take their bilingualism or multilingualism, being bilingual and being able to speak several languages or two languages, continue this journey on their own. So I'm like a cheerleader. So go back to your question about my children. Both of them, they speak fluent Mandarin Chinese. And both of them, my daughter and my son both can read, but they in different levels. Like for my daughter, she likes to read stories, storybooks, and also a lot of times, long form kind of stories. For my son, he's very interested in like how do you say idioms? We call it in Chinese 成语. So he likes to read something about like history. So they have different interests. So reading and writing wise, so we first need to read because that's the input, and then we write, we produce, that's the output. So I think for reading wise, my daughter's probably because she enjoys do a lot of she enjoys doing a lot of reading. So basically, you will also see that she feels much more comfortable writing as well in the home language. That will be the Chinese, the Chinese. So for example, right now when she's writing to me in text form because she's in college, so her text to me is almost 99% in Chinese.
Right.
And then for my son, it depends. And then also sometimes I can read his text, either in English or Chinese, a combination. But a lot of times if he writes in Chinese and then he'll say, oh, did I write it wrong or did I write it right? And the funny thing is like you can tell because technology is here. So he can also use technology to
Yeah.
facilitate his writing in Chinese. So I would say because they grew up, either outside of the States or in the States, and they have never lived in a Chinese speaking country. So their writing level, or I would say speaking level, is just like, normal conversation. Everything is a very good. They can be on their own. And then for reading wise, I would say, I would say elementary school, 3 to 5th, grade level. And then they can always, depends what they're reading, right? If they're reading newspapers or something more challenging, the topics they don't know, then the level will vary. But overall, they can handle most of the things day to day, kind of
Right.
a proficiency. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think like you said, your both your children are writing to you in Mandarin and like mix of Mandarin and English. But I'm thinking when you text someone, you have to change the script. So it might be like I know, for example, on my phone I have as well Japanese, Korean, English, and French. But when I switch to Japanese or Korean, it takes an effort. So having them mix it still means that they're putting the effort and they're making the effort to write in Mandarin, which is, I
Yeah.
guess, a good sign.
Yes, yes, that's true. So on my phone, I also have like different language, English, Chinese, and Spanish. So it's kind of fun to see that they need to actually intentionally they need to switch the language so they can type
Yeah,
or key in the language.
yeah. And so that's how they are now. But originally, why was it important for you that your children could read and write as well in Chinese and not just speak?
Right. Um, Reading is very important, as we know, because reading, they read the stories. A lot of times you can read and you can reflect on things you have read. And a lot
Yeah,
of times, because we're reading in the target language, so for me, it's the Mandarin Chinese. And then they also will touch on the materials I selected for them. A lot of that is either probably have the culture content in there. So it is a way to help them to connect with their background, their heritage, and their identity. So they know they actually have the American culture, but also they need to understand the Chinese culture. But how much is that? It's a mix. It depends on what we're learning. If we're talking about the new year now, then I will probably read something about the Chinese New Year as well. And then the comparison is very important. So the content is definitely very, very crucial for parents when we want to select the different information reading materials for them. And
mm,
it is important because being able to speak a language and being able to read a language is in a different level of
yeah,
understanding and comprehension. When you read something, you need to process that material. You need to understand the characters, the language, the structure. Why do they write this way? And why they're thinking that way. And that has a lot with to process. So for me to understand, for example, today is the Confucius birthday. So in Taiwan, it is
mm,
a Teacher's Day. So I will probably before when they're a day like this, I will teach them something about Kongzi, that's Confucius, or read some passages about Confucius. And so for them, it's a different connection. They will say, wow, he writes short sentences, or his writing or his discussion with his students. Everything's so short, but it's a very profound because every little phrase or very little sentences actually have very profound or big meanings he wants to deliver. So that's the classical Chinese, and then comparing with the modern Chinese. So of course, at that time, they're a little bit older, so I can talk about that. So that's why people usually run away, say, this is too difficult. One word, can mean so many different things. But
Mm.
it's also a good way to inspire their curiosity.
Yeah. Okay, I think we discussed a lot about this, like curiosity and how to generate that. And so I remember last year when we talked about how you were raising your children bilingual, and you said that your son, your son didn't start like his start wasn't very smooth. He was a bit pushing back. Now I'd like to ask you about the multi-literacy journey. So how did it start? Maybe around what age, and was it smoother or was it also very, there were difficult times and
A
better,
bumpy road.
yeah, bumpy road.
Just like a bumpy road. I think a progress is never a linear kind of a line. It is always go up and down, just like when
Yeah.
adults are learning a language or anything. You sometimes hit a plateau. You feel like you're not really making progress. And then this is
Mm,
especially as parents, it's very easy to see if the children or the students are actually making progress, but they cannot see. So when they cannot
yeah.
see, sometimes it can be very frustrating.
Mm,
That's why sometimes we need to use different topics. We need to different themes or to cater to their interest to show them that actually they are making progress. Or even the progress is very small. They're touching on different things. So sometimes it's not really spiral. It is probably just flat, but we're touching on different topics. But we're
yeah.
circling and practicing all the
Yeah.
structures, vocabulary, grammar, or just how to tell a story. Because telling a story is a skill. Because we read a lot of
Yeah.
stories. That's reading. But writing is a way to tell a story. So how exciting that is if you can write a story so people can read it. So if we talk about reading, I would say that a lot of times I want to start talking about reading because reading is very important and that will lead to writing.
Yeah.
So what parents want to see in their kids to do more reading. So READ, read. There are could be resilience. My kids should be very resilient and they should feel, they can read more or they can conquer the failure if they can read this part. But actually, if they cannot read 80 or 90% of a passage, is it too hard? Are we offering something too difficult to read? And that is being resilient. I think we need to help them to see that it's possible. So that's our parents want to see the resilience. And then the E, also parents need to have empathy. You need to understand that's what you want, but is that what your child wants? That's very important. So how do we understand how difficult that is if Chinese is my native language? So for me, reading it is it's simple because I've been practicing this for many, many years. But for a child, it's challenging because they just start this journey. They need to see the word, read this word many, many times, or this phrase or this story many, many times. But to think about this, if they are watching a Disney movie, they really love. They probably will tell you, "Can I watch it again? I want to watch it again."
Yeah.
So, or read a book in your community language they're very familiar with. A child can read the same book 365 or 3,000 times if they are not tired of it. Are we doing that with the home language, with the target language we're doing? So we definitely need to have the
Mm,
empathy to understand what they want and what we can help them to go to that road. How do we transform what do we want them to read into something they really want to read? And then also the A will be activities. Reading is just not let's sit down and read. Reading can be an activity. Can we read in a different place? Can we read with question and answers? Can we read like we're doing a theater, especially for older kids, reading? And then D means we need to have a discussion, not just read. but are you reading that story too? Can we have a discussion about it? Can it be a interactive activity? So that's the read for parents. We want them to be resilient. We also need to have empathy. We want to make reading as an activity. We need to read ourselves too. We need to model that. Are you reading? So I remember a comic, the very interesting comic, like one mother, two mothers. One mother asked the other mother, and then she saw the kid in the picture. One boy is reading, but the other boy, her boy, is playing on the phone. So she asked the mother, how do you make your child read? But you know what the other mother is holding in his hands? A book.
Ah,
And on the other hand, the mother who's asking the question, whose boy is playing on the phone, and what is she holding in her hands? A phone. So we definitely need to model that, right? It's a very interesting image. And discussion. Parents want to, have a discussion, not just read it, but ask questions. How do you think? And sometimes you need to talk about what you think about this story. Wow, I really like this story, or what I don't like about this story. So your child will know what to say or what to talk about. And then we can lead to writing, from reading to writing. And then for kids, READ, read, for them, a lot of times what we see is resistance. Why do I
yeah,
want to read in my target language? I read much faster in English, in French, in Spanish,
yeah,
right? Because that's a community language. I use this all the time, this language. So we see resistance. And also in E, sometimes becomes embarrassment. They feel bad because they cannot read more in the target language. But that's something we want to avoid. And then A become anxiety because they cannot do that and they feel anxious whenever they have to try something in the target language. Sometimes they feel very anxious about that. And D will be distraction. When it's time to read, they'll be distracted, maybe because they're not interested. So we want to turn all that into a different kind of READ. Like I said earlier, we want them to have resilience. We want to also have empathy that I want to know why my mom, my dad want me to read in the target language. And I want to participate in reading activities and be able to participate in the reading discussion. So
thank you.
from
These
there,
are very interesting acronyms.
yeah.
Yeah,
So what the kids are seeing and what parents are seeing. But we
yeah,
really need to, but can we move from this side to the other side? It's possible. But I think what's more important is we need to understand them.
yeah,
And that will help them to read more, read, and then develop the writing skill.
yeah,
That takes time. And that needs a lot of input to help them. Like I said, can you write an interesting story so people want to read? You just read this story about ninja, or you just, read the story about Minecraft or some kind of digital game they like. Can
yeah,
we create a story about that? They need
yeah,
to be interested so they can first they talk about it and they can write
yeah. That's really important that they want to do it. And so this leads us nicely to this topic. Because so the reason I reached out to you is because so first because I know you're an expert in making people enthusiastic about language learning, etc. And and also that you're a mom of children who young adults already, so you went through this. But so the comments I got a lot from parents were, oh, my child is too lazy and he or she doesn't want to write. So what do you think of this adjective lazy? And so why do you think that they don't want to write in the home language?
Yeah, I think they're not lazy. I think most of the time, I really feel that it's just so easy to connect not wanting to do it with laziness.
Hmm.
But it is laziness or is because they don't have the content or they don't have the material, they don't have the
Yeah.
resource to write about it. So today we're talking about multilingualism here. We're talking about, how to encourage kids to write, to read and to write. We have a lot to say. Both of us sitting here, we're just so passionate about this topic. We can talk forever. But how about if we say, well, let's talk about building a rocket. Let's talk about that. We can probably talk about the topic for a few minutes. And
Yeah, because
therefore
we
probably
don't
about
really
look
know.
at each other. Well, like,
That's it.
maybe let's go get a cup of coffee. You see what I'm trying to the point here is they need to have the background knowledge to talk about it.
Yeah,
So what's the best way, most effective way to encourage them to write something they're interested in?
yeah.
What are
That,
they interested in?
yeah. And then
Something they already know about.
yeah. So then they need the knowledge, they need the reason why they would want to write about it, or that it's useful for something.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. But
This is
yeah.
just this is a very interesting, isn't it? So because you teach at school, do you find that's also something important
To write, you
to
mean?
help kids to write, write something they don't know?
Yeah. So yeah, I do the same in my lessons. It's to I have something to teach them, but especially if I know it's going to be something complex or because language learning that most of the children in the UK at least they don't see why they have to learn a language. It's just part of the subject they have to learn in school.
Mhm.
But we need to make it fun so that they are happy to be in the lesson, then they practice, and as a consequence, then they can improve. Yeah. But for example, writing is one of the things that they don't really like either because it demands a lot of effort. So yeah, for example, when I heard first or read first the adjective lazy, but also repeated from different people who I'm sure they don't know each other, uh,
Mhm.
I thought there is something about it, and it's about the vision, like you were saying. It's from us, we see the inactivity as laziness. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's laziness. If we're in their shoes, we'll probably choose not to do it as well. It's something, especially if it's not needed and it's difficult. If it's either needed or it's not that difficult, it's a challenge that I want to take, fine. But yeah, so laziness is it depends from which point of view, I guess.
Yes, yes. So we have different perspective, right? The
Yeah.
perspective from the kids, no matter if it's younger kids or teenagers, and perspective from parents. Because when parents don't see the product, they feel like, how come you're not writing? But maybe for the kids, it's like, I really don't know what to write. Maybe you should sit down with them, tell them a story, and talk about it. So I did an experiment during the COVID time. I was teaching the school online from second grade to eighth grade. So
Okay.
different levels, right? So for the second graders, and they just started learning, and then they learn a few things. And I said, well, let's do some writing. They're like, writing? No, we just started learning Chinese. I said, well, you know how to write like I have my friends. So I said, well, we're just going to use this is a very limited words, okay? And I said, well, things you don't know, you can write in English. That's okay. So it's like you open a box of opportunities for them. They suddenly say, oh yeah, I know how to, write those words in Chinese, but the things I like, I don't know how to write, but I'll write in English. That really helped them to be excited about it because you know what they're saying, writing? They're writing about what they like to watch, what they like to read, what they like to eat, all sorts of things. And for older kids, Definitely, they're older, they're teenagers. At that time, I believe they're eighth grade, maybe seventh and eighth grade. So we'll say 13, 14, 15 years old. So it's very interesting. You know what they write about? They say, okay, we'll try. But when I say, oh, you can write anything you want, movie stars, singers, the games you play. They say, really? Can I do that? Yeah. I say, well, use the color words you have learned, the expression, simple expression, all the words you can write in Chinese. The things you don't know, you try your best. You can use Playco, that's an online dictionary, but that's okay. I'll help you. But just give me the structure. And that's very important. They talk about the singers they like, the football players they like. They talk about, what kind of movie they like. And this is a project not just for 1 week. This is a project, it went for several weeks. But when they finish it, everything is in Chinese, 100% Chinese. In the meantime, they really want to learn how to write those words. Why? Because they are going to talk about the wonderful singers they like, the movie stars they like, what they write, what they drink, how tall they are. I know this is a beginner writing class.
Yeah.
But can you feel the excitement they had when after several weeks, the whole story is in Chinese? You give them opportunities. You let them see the possibilities. But we start something very small. We start from sentences. Actually, we start from words and then sentences. And then we put it together. And they tell a story. They write a story they want to have you to read. And they are proud of it.
And I would like to ask you about your children. So, because you say it was a bumpy road, but
Yeah.
are there some of the things that you felt that you did and didn't work, or some of the things you did that particularly worked well with your children? Can you give us a few examples?
Yeah. So what I did at the beginning is just short sentences, silly sentences, talk about cat, because both my kids, they really love animals. So we used to have 2 cats, so 1 parakeet, several fish. And so my daughter asked a very good question. It's not a question at home, but a question from the school. But she had to do some writing. The teacher gave them, so you need to write, for example, 100 words of something. And she said, okay, I'm going to talk about my pet. I have 2 cats. They're very cute. And she was very young at the time, maybe first or second grade, and things like that. Just started writing like a small articles. And she said, how am I going to write 100 words?
Yeah.
I said, wow, your cat is really cute, but why is the cat cute? What does she do? Make you feel she is so cute. And what's the color? Oh, it's gray and kind of black, a little bit brown. I say, oh, that's very good for the story. You should write that. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. And then you said the cat is cute. I agree. I think the cat is cute because I'm here too. I see the cat. So I know they're very cute. And why? What did they do to make it cute? Did they go shopping with you? So it's very cute. So she said, huh? No, they do tricks. I gave them little treats and they will shake hands with me. I said, oh, you should write that in the story. Wow, your cat can shake hands with you. That's very cute. So they need some guidance, right? So from that, so kind of help them say how to describe and how to tell a story. So that's one
Yeah.
thing.
Because they need the ideas, and even if they can write, what would they write about? Why? So what would they write about, and why would they write? Yeah.
Right. And then how about, well, some people, they don't have a pet. So they don't know what cats can do. And you're amazing bird. Oh, now you want to write, oh, then she wanted to write about birds. Oh, now she's over 100 words. Too many words. I think it's okay. Write too many, it's okay. But we need to help them, to prompt them, to guide them to be able to write something.
Yeah.
Not just say, please sit down and write your words. It's kind of hard. But if they have a partner to go back and forth, like we can do brainstorming. Wow. It's a brainstorming writing, not brainstorming talking, but brainstorming writing.
Yeah.
So that's from difficult to, wow, it's possible. So what I did was I use I used like a Google Slides, and then I used like a 4 different squares, and then I said, wow, you can do it, because she likes to draw. So I said, you
Yeah.
draw something, then you write about it, like comic books. And that's possible. But I will always talk about it. I will say, well, for this one, I really think this is about, for example, the little girl who really wants to go to the mall. Oh, then she'll laugh. She said, no, 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 it's not going to the mall. It's going somewhere else. I say, okay, then now you can write. So I will give some samples. I think it's very important to give them some samples, examples, so they know where they want to go and they can talk with you. There's really no right and wrong answers. You just want them to feel comfortable to write.
Yeah.
You want them to have that imagination. So, as you know, you need a lot of practice. Some days maybe they don't want to write. Some days
Yeah.
maybe they want to write. 2 sentences is better than none. Writing every week is better than not writing at all. So journaling will become something, a very good activity for kids when you want them to write something in their target language. But
Yeah.
at the same time, tell them, hey, below, maybe on top, you can write in English or your community language, but below that, you can write something in your home language or target language. So it's a practice. So for my son as well, writing is not really something his favorite activity in Chinese, because he can write much faster. He can read much faster in English. Why do I want to write in Chinese?
Yeah.
Right? So I said, maybe this is so difficult. I think we need to figure out a way to help kids read and write.
Yeah.
So what we did was we started to do a game, like a word game, put pieces together and put 2 characters together, become a phrase. I said, well, what can you use with this? Oh, we can do this. Oh, let's write it down. It's very important. Oh, this is very interesting. It's like a scrambles, but it's
Yeah.
actually, it's in Chinese. So
Yeah.
use a game to lead him to do something, or he will say, well, I don't
Why?
really need to
Yeah.
write, right? Why do I
Yeah.
need to write? Seriously, why? What do you want me to write? And then I
Yeah.
ask myself the same question. What's my goal here? What's my ultimate goal? Let's say that. What's my
Yeah.
ultimate goal? I want them to, the most important thing, be able to read and write is to maintain, to sustain that target language.
Yeah.
Because speaking is one thing, but when you are able to read, you can go further. You can sustain that language, and then you can be better.
And talking about so why basically they would do it and giving them a purpose like a game, etc. I just want to mention your book that's behind you, Little Bun, because that's a project you had with your daughter. And that's so and through this you because it was written in Chinese, so your daughter had a motivation to write something, and she did also the illustrations, I believe. But yeah, it's a real project, and I think when children can see that it's for something, so all the efforts are worth it. So they're going to do it. And so I wanted to ask you as well a question about 2 different things. So first is your view on new technology like phones, etc. So for example, um, on phones, but not now, there is speech to text. So you can just speak, it's going to write. I know my sons use it when they're writing Korean because it's a lot quicker than trying to find the the the, the letters on the keyboard.
Mhm.
Um, and what's your view on this?
Absolutely use the technology. Why not? Especially if they
Yeah,
are older. I think,
yeah,
if they're younger, like say maybe if they're like under 12 or 13, just gradually. But like my kids, when they are teenagers, and I said, well, when you write to me, you can, try to write in Chinese, right? And then say, oh, mom, I have to type the pinyin, and then I need to find the words, and da 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 da. But at that time, to do the audio thing was not available.
Yeah.
Then when it was available, and I said, you know, you can actually just use the audio, and then that'll be much faster. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, technology can be a tool, can be a helper, can be a motivation. When they think, that give them ideas like, oh yeah, it's possible I can do this. I have a lot to say, but I have to type for a long time. But what I have observed is something very interesting because then you start to see, they send out a text and they say, they'll call me and say, did I write that word correctly? Is that the word for this phrase? And also the phrase, does it look weird? Because that word seems, not the right word to put in there. But I have to say, when they are doing that, that is their thinking in the language. And
Yeah.
look at the word and say, I think I don't think this is the right word. Does it have the grass on top, or this is the one with the female, thing in the character? I don't think that's right. And most of the time, I have to say they choose the correct one because choosing the correct character is actually takes effort, the brain
Yeah.
power to do that.
Yeah.
So let them do that.
Yeah.
Let them show you
Yeah.
what
I
they
think
can
that's,
do. It's teaching, it's a lesson as well. It's a real
yeah.
life lesson. They can learn right away. You say, oh, yeah, you should have used this word, but that's okay. Next time, let me
Yeah.
show you the link to the dictionary. Read a little bit more. So next time you'll write it correctly. Here we go.
Yeah, I think when these tools exist, it's good to let them use it because if we put too many restrictions and say, no, but you're not really writing, I want you to write, then they're going to go into the easiest language. So, for example, English, if they live in a English-speaking country, and they won't be using the home language. But if there is speech to text, for example, they're going to say it, it's going to write it, but maybe they mispronounce something, or maybe the phone chose the wrong word. So they need to proofread and then send the message. So this is still working in the language and on the language as well. So yeah, I'm also in favor of letting them use technology like the phone, etc.
Yeah. Well, technology is a tool
Yeah,
for us as adults. So it's also a tool for kids.
yeah,
And the important thing is how to use it. So, for example, when I write birthday cards to my daughter, I always write in Chinese, and then sometimes I write a lot. So
yeah.
1 year, 2 years ago, I decided I start to record it as well. So when I sent it to her, she was at the school.
Ah,
I saw her save the audio file. So I
ah,
said, well, you got the card. She said, I read it. And I said, but I also see you. Yeah, I saved the file so I can listen to it when I read it.
nice.
Do we listen to audiobooks? Yes, we do. So what you write becomes a little story for your children.
That's so
So,
nice. Yeah,
sometimes it will be a little bit challenging for them because things I want to say can be a little bit complicated because they are much older now. So I don't use the regular conversation kind of writing. Sometimes I will write things that are more like, more advanced phrases. So
yeah,
she actually appreciates that because she tells me that, oh, so, if there's part I don't understand, I can go look for it and I know how to say it. So we need to catch their effort, not
yeah,
catch what they have not done. We need to
yeah,
see what they have made efforts again, not the things like they have not done yet. I will use yet because maybe they need guidance, maybe they need help.
yeah.
So my son one time told me that, can you talk with me about the presidential election? I want to talk about that in Chinese because he studies science. A lot of things he says, even in English, for me, it's like, woo. So he finds the needs that he wants to learn, something he's
Mm,
interested in, but he does not know how to express in Chinese. So he came to me and said, hey, can we talk about presidential election. So the whole time, every time now from then, every time when there's some big current event or something going on, we will talk about that in Chinese. While he write about it, well, he can text me if he wants to, and he can use audio. And I know sometimes there will be mistakes, but it's okay. At least he's trying. We need to see the effort so he can keep going.
Yes. Yeah. And then because now they are not living with you, so they're
Mhm.
in college, university, so but they still write to you in Mandarin Chinese.
My
So
daughter
which means
definitely
that
100%, almost 99%. My son is a combination in English
yeah,
and Chinese. Yeah.
but it means that they're still putting the effort, and it's something that's because if they were living outside, they could be maybe they hear a lot more English, they communicate with others a lot more in English. So it's not like Chinese is present in their mind all the time. So it's an extra effort, but they still do it. And I think it's like what you were saying before about being positive, encouraging, giving help and prompts if needed, so they don't feel like it's too difficult. So like not bother, but see that it's doable and then do it. And I guess it's giving them opportunities to do it as well.
We create opportunity for them
Yeah,
to try. We
yeah,
create opportunity for them to see, actually, it can be fun. It's
yeah,
possible. And then a
yeah,
lot of times they don't know how to produce because they don't have input.
yeah,
Have have them read stories about this subject? Have been keep talking about the same thing? If they
yeah.
talk about games with you, online gaming, if your kids are playing games, do you know how to play?
Yeah.
That's the same thing, right? Just in different subject.
Yeah,
So so if you play with them, you know what they're so excited about, then you can be a part of the activity. And this is the same thing. You when you want them to do some activity, you need to be very inviting. You want to invite them to join you as
yeah,
you write, and they write. Sometimes you can do an exercise, 60-second writing, only 60 seconds, no problem. Next time, 2 minutes writing. I can do 60 seconds. I can do 2 minutes too.
yeah,
You increase that. 3 minutes writing, 5 minutes writing. You need to
yeah,
stop it before it gets challenging for them. You make them
yeah,
feel like, I want to come back and do more.
yeah.
Want
I
to, I want to come back to do more. I
yeah,
have more to write. This can be a story continuously writing, right? The first time the story is only 60 seconds. Next time, 60 seconds. And then really, really want to write? Oh, you want more time? Oh, okay, 2 minutes.
yeah,
You add a little bit more, and then see, give them, celebrate what they have done. Say, wow, look at you. Look at your sentences. It's so interesting, so fun. Oh, I cannot wait to read more about your story. My son actually wrote a story with me about a little boy, a very silly boy with a cousin who's still in diapers. I still think it's a great story. It's hilarious. Her writing is very different from my daughter's story, but it was hilarious. The trash can is on the baby's head. One day we have to find that story and then probably share with everybody. But this is a fun thing. If they have things they want to write, if they have a good sense of humor, you need to help them to tell people
yeah,
their jokes, their stories in their head, but in written form. The best storyteller is the person who started it
yeah,
and make it possible. Even they have to write some English words, Spanish words in there, let them, because then you know what they know and what they don't know, so you can help them.
yeah. And I think just because you talked about jokes, etc., I think one thing that I did with my sons that can be quite fun for people to do, like for teenagers as well, it's for any age, but they need to be able to write enough. But it's like in France, we have something called papillotes, which is like chocolates, and there is a joke that's wrapped around and it's wrapped in a nice paper. And so it's like one or two sentences, very short. And so it's creating with your children like that kind of jokes, putting them in the wrappers, and then like you open them like Christmas or whenever you want to eat them actually. but that could create an incentive as well, that they want to make it fun. But for example, Christmas, generally we spend it with my mom, who doesn't read, or she can read English, but she prefers French. So then it gives them an incentive to write in French. And they are funny, so they like it. And
Yeah, it's a great activity.
and
Excellent activity.
one other thing, so it's a little plug, but because when I was a child, so I know I had to write diary. In Japan, it's
Mhm.
quite popular. Like everybody does it, but you talk about what you did during the day. Like today, it was sunny. I went to the park, and I remember that because maybe in France we don't do that, I found it really, really boring. And I never knew what to talk about because for me it was a normal day. And so the plug is this diary that I wrote,
Mhm.
because so when we make it too open, that children we don't know what to write about. But when you give them prompts,
Yes.
then they can have ideas. So in this book, you have loads of prompts, and there are some spaces where you can write a lot. Kids discovering someone's story, and they can
Yep.
write about it and their opinions. So if you give them prompts, it's a lot easier. And
Yes.
in my previous session, I was talking about the 20-80 ratio, when it's 20% of effort for 80% of fun. But if there is no fun, they want a fun or some form of reward, they won't want to do it. And so it's important to keep that in mind as well, to when we ask our teenagers to write, or when we create opportunities for them to write, it shouldn't be just writing, but there should be an aim, and for them to be like to see a purpose to do it.
Yes, yes. I really I think the journaling is a very good activity. You talk about you did that in Japanese. Actually, when I was growing up, I did it in Chinese. And then, if you have the same day over and over again, then it becomes like, oh, not so fun. So that's why we
Yeah,
created activities. Like then you have a book, the book, the to help kids to have prompts to write about, right? And then
yeah,
that's great because they're actually all the topics, all the writing things is around, but we need to notice it first. What
yeah,
they're interested, what are they reading, like comics books, like your latest book also, right? You want to put the kids in a situation, they do time travel, they can use their imagination.
yeah,
So your books are helping kids to think about it, and to think about it, not just think about it, say, well, after you are a part of story, when you become a part of story, what story do you want to tell?
yeah,
And that's the key point. Even though Little Bun is a picture book for kids, but it's talking about emotions.
yeah,
We can ask kids, what do you feel when I ask you to write? Don't be afraid to ask because the answer might not be something you would like to hear, but maybe that's the truth. And maybe that's something we can do something about it,
yeah,
right? But for writing also, to write, what does what does what do I want? What do I want? Because when I want my kids to write, maybe I want them to know the wisdom of their heritage culture,
yeah,
right? That's first, wisdom. And second, you want them to reflect what they have learned about their heritage culture or home culture. And
yeah,
then you want to also enforce their identity. You want to let them to be able to have their identity, strengthen their identity, because they are not just only going to be able to speak the language, target language, they can read and they can write and write about it. That's identity. And then T, I would say it is help them to transform, to know that it's powerful to be bilingual, to be multilingual, and to be
mm,
able to know different languages and even be able to write in that target language. And then E is express, and they can express their feelings in the home language. That's what parents want.
Yeah.
Again, but for kids, what we need them to have when they write or they encourage them to write in the home language, the W becomes the wonder. They need to be able to wonder, to say, why I want to write this story, in the target language. It's just like your prompt. Like you give them the reason why they can write in that language. And then also they need to have the R, they need to relax. When they write, they should enjoy that, right? They need to relax. Can you imagine every time when kids or students want to take a test, they're like, I'm very nervous. And I cannot think. But when they write, they need to relax. They go, oh, I'm having fun. Just like I said, like you give them the prompts so they can be very easily to move into the situation of a story. And I give them, the students, some kind of scenarios. They can write things, they really want to say, even though they have words they don't know. It's okay. We'll work on that. But first, let's just start. Relax. And then imagination. Stories is about imagination. No matter, then we can talk about genres, the writing structure, right? When they want to be able to have that imagination put into their writing, there are a lot of things we can put in there. We can pack in there and help them to learn. And T is techniques. What are techniques? What are the tools? Like we talk about, we have the text to audio kind of a tool we can use. Techniques are, how about today we're going to use, different kind of games online, or even we can use some kind of like a Google, slides and things like that. Not the writing was, like on the paper, with all these sentences. How about we play a game with 4 squares? Maybe we just use the graphic novel kind of technique and to write. How about comic books way to write? How about use Yoshito's book to write? Because we have prompts, different techniques, right? And then we, at the same time, we teach kids how, you know what, talking a story, remember your favorite story? It's almost like a hero's journey. Well, who are the characters? Let's talk about the characters first. Let's give them an introduction. What do they do? What's the most important thing? That's the content. Okay, now the story, the adventure, it's all in the content. And then at the end, we have a conclusion. What did they learn? What happened at the end? Because they got lost in the mountain. What will happen next time? Now there's a story. We need to give them some techniques. We need to give them some template and samples, and then point the stories they love and talk about it. One mother said, my son really likes zombies. I said, that's great. And she looked at me and said, huh? I said, yeah, because there are a lot of stories he wants to write. Maybe because he likes thrillers. Techniques, right? And the E is excitement. We want kids to feel the excitement when they sit down and write, or when they just be a part of a writing activity. So 2 sides of the write, WRIT, for parents or for kids.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's been great to talk about writing, to start from the point of view of some parents who might think, okay, my teenager is too lazy to write, to understanding why they don't write or why they don't want to write, and to give some solutions. But I guess seeing the situation from their perspective is really helpful. And it was great to talk to you about all these things. And I love your acronyms, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But also, I think among all that, we also need to remember connections are very important. The connection you have with your kids, connection, you connect not just the home language, home writing, home reading, home language reading, all that, but also we need to connect with their big environment. We also acknowledge they live in England, they live in the States, they live in different places. They do live in that environment. So it's not just one. It's not just one. It's always 1 plus. 1 plus 1 target language, 1 plus 2 home language or home culture. It's always 1 plus. So we know we want to only focus on the target language, but we also need to remember the environment they're in. We need to acknowledge that, be a part of that, and pull and plus that target language in, the home language in, so they feel they are a part of the whole package, and
Yeah.
can be proud of their bilingual. They are bilingual or they are multilingual. They can speak, they can read, they can listen, and they can tell a story, write about it in the home language.
Thank you so much on
Thank
these
you.
wise, finishing on these wise words. So after we have, so in 15 minutes, I have like a conclusion session, very brief, just to give a summary of what we've discovered today from each speaker, so that if, for example, you're not sure what to watch because there's so much at the moment, you can just watch this and then jump back on the session you enjoy or you would like to listen to. And yeah, so thank you very much again, Amanda, for coming and participating to this event and to sharing how we can motivate our teenagers to write in their home language.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and sharing such a wonderful topic and being a part of this wonderful event. And thank you so much, Yoshito.
Thank you. Bye.